Hi there. Welcome to Sunnyside Journals. I'm Catherine, and I have a flip through today of a journal I just completed. Although I started it many months ago, it's finally finished, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. This book is very old. It's 100 years old. It was published in 1920. Its name is INFELICE, and it really turned into a very, very pretty journal. I'm going to open it up and go through it, but if you'll just bear with me 1 second, I want to show you the books that I pulled from to create some of the pages for INFELICE, because I don't use digital prints, and I also don't use big box store purchased scrapbook paper. If there is a sheet of scrapbook paper in any of my journals, it's because I found it through a thrifted source, whether it's a thrift store, charity shop, garage sale, yard sales. If you find scrapbook paper in my book, rest assured it's secondhand. So I wanted to show you some of the books I pulled from this really sweet book called The Flower Painter's Pocket Palette, and it's just how to paint flowers and what paints to use. I also pulled from this really awesome old book called Good Housekeeping's Cookery Compendium for a page. I pulled from the Common Usage Dictionary Italian-English. Of course, I had to take a few pages out of the Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. And then I also used several pages out of A Gardener's Journal, and I tea-dyed these pages. So let's take a look inside INFELICE. As I mentioned, she's 100 years old, and she was actually in quite good shape. I still had to fortify her spine, of course. I've reused some of her original interior pages. I had to fortify them. The paper was quite soft and easily crackable, but I was still able to use many pages out of the book and repurpose it and put it back into her, which is a nice thing to be able to do. So let's measure her, because I forget now what her dimensions are. She is 5 inches by 7.5 inches by, I would dare say 1.25 inches. She has 5 signatures, and she has been put together with a hidden hollowback spine. I have used a little bit of lace inside there and in the other end as well. There's been quite a bit of sewing in this book. I have left the threads long. The new owner, if they are not enjoying the threads, can cut them off. I've left them as is. I rather enjoy them. On the ribbon here, just to hold her closed, is purely because it's pretty. And I've also attached an antique chandelier crystal. Whether it's actually crystal or whether it's glass, I'm not sure. I'm not an expert. But I do know it's old because the wiring on this, I have quite a few of these from somebody's chandelier, is quite old. If you can see it right there. And it weighs a lot. So anyhow, it's pretty. For me, it's pretty, and I love it. So I just included that on the ribbon. On the front cover, this was original to the cover. I did not add this. It's a beautiful little picture of a young lady and a dog and 2 gentlemen who apparently were suitors in the story. Her name was Regina. And because the title was originally Unhappy, I put a word plate, a brass word plate on it that says joy, so that there's balance in all things. All right, let's take a look inside. The inside papers are from, and of course, I forgot to show you that, are from a book called In Search of English Gardens. And it's an interesting book. Most of the artwork inside was done. The author is John Claudius Loudon, but his wife Jane Loudon did the artwork. So there's a botanical in the front end paper, and there's also a botanical on the end paper. And I've stitched around the edges. This botanical still had a name on it. Because I had to trim it down, I saved the name and added it back on. So, and I thought a magnolia was an appropriate flower. This story apparently takes place in the southern states. The front page here is actually from the Reader's Digest of 1959, and it's an autobiography of Moss Hart, who was a playwright and wrote many plays such as A Star is Born and My Fair Lady. I covered that up and put a young lady's picture here, and then there's some fussy cut roses and some, I think they're either apple blossoms or cherry blossoms up here, and there's lace down the edge that has been sewn on. Here's some fussy cut flowers that I have added a little word snippet from a book, and you can turn it over if you like and write whatever you like, or you can leave it saying heart matters. That's completely up to you. Come on, in you go. Thank you. I've saved the copyright from the original book to show that this is indeed from 1920. Here's a page from Edith Holden, tea-dyed paper, and there are turquoise and white polka dot tabs throughout the book. This is music from an old music book I have. I used the cover for one of my other journals, so unfortunately I can't show it to you because the cover is gone and being enjoyed in another book. But I have covered it with tracing paper so that you can still journal on it and still enjoy the music that's in behind. And because the title of the song was Once There Was a Little Princess, I put a fussy cut illustration of a little princess. All of my illustrations that I use in the book, fussy cut, come from books, come from other books. I don't purchase fussy cut packages, and I don't purchase digital kits that I fussy cut. These are from books. Many of the illustrations for this one came from a book called The Language of Flowers. This is the other side, the new doll. Here is some, it's just embossed stationery that I thought was nice to have in. A rusted paper clip. It is new. I made it rust to look old and added a bit of lace up here. Tea-dyed paper. This is a page from the Gardener's Journal that has been tea-dyed. Here's a tuck spot with some fabric and some buttons. And I've included an old index card that's naturally yellowed. It's a lovely, lovely creamy golden shade because it's old. Here's a playing card that I have turned into a journaling spot. These buttons on this little tuck spot are actually really old. A friend of mine gave them to me. They belonged to her great aunt, and she immediately thought of me and said, "Would you like this box of buttons?" And I said, "Oh, yes, please." And I just thought they were all very pretty. I love this one especially because it's actually a little bit broken. And I love that about buttons, when obviously her great aunt still took the time to save this little broken button. And then the green matched the green in here, so I had to include that. This little card with a young lady sitting at her desk writing, I have left it as is, and I'm leaving that for the new owner to decide what they would like to do. They can leave it as is, or you can glue shut the 2 pages here. Along the bottom, just run a stream of glue between, close it shut, and that will give you 2 tuck spots to put journaling cards inside, and then you can still journal on these sides. Or you can run a X-Acto blade across the top here and across the top here, and that will actually give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 extra pages of journaling space. But I'm going to leave that up to you, if that's what you'd like to do, or if you'd like to leave it as is. More tea-dyed paper. The other side of the music is a flip out. Tea-dyed paper. The other side of Edith Holden. I forgot to tell you, there is a total of 108 pages in this book, and that does not include the little greeting cards and envelopes that I have tucked into the signatures as well. Tea-dyed paper. This is a leaf from a guest book. This is a page from the How to Paint Flowers book, and I have added some fussy cut flowers to it. This is a page from the Language of Flowers, and I've turned it into like an extra large belly band that you can fit, papers behind. I've taken the opportunity to put in an antique postcard. This is a genuine antique postcard. It's the real deal. It hasn't been printed off. I know it's Easter, but I really thought the turquoise just matched so perfectly, and the illustration was so sweet with the bunnies. So I had to include it because that turquoise there just popped for me. More tea-dyed paper, tea-dyed ledger paper. This is a page from the Italian-English dictionary, and if you turn over to this side, you'll see that it's actually the page with INFELICE. Oh, let's get you in focus. There's INFELICE, and it says unhappy. The center of the signature is just a pretty little piece of stationery. More tea-dyed papers. This is a page from a book, and I can't remember what book it's from, so your guess is as good as mine. The other side of the guest book. This is from a file folder. I've created a tuck spot from an old doily that has been crocheted from crochet thread. And I've made a bookmark and fussy cut and collaged on it. This is a page from out of the actual book of INFELICE. And then there's a little pink safety pin there holding that over. On this side, I've made another tuck spot with some pretty fabric and a little vase of flowers. There's another playing card that has been made into a journaling card. And then there's also another tag, journaling tag, that has been made from a page out of the original book. This book is one of a series of books. It was quite popular back then to have the last few pages in a book be advertisements for upcoming books that you could still purchase from that publisher. So that's what this is from, and there's actually a few others later in the book you'll see. More tea-dyed paper. This is the other side of the page that's out of a book that I don't remember which one it was that I pulled from. I added tracing paper over top of the text so that you can journal on that. And then I added some little Victorian fussy cuts here and here. Again, these have been cut from books that I find at my thrifty sources. Some tea-dyed music paper. More tea-dyed paper. This is a genuine vintage greeting card, a get well soon card. And I just thought it was so pretty. And again, the colors matched, so it's not necessarily the same topic, but the color theme, it just matched. The beautiful flowers, handwriting of a little story, and then this lovely, lovely turquoise. I just loved it. And I left it again as is. It's up to the new owner if you want to glue this shut and make a pocket out of it, or if you'd like to slice open the top very carefully. You just need an X-Acto blade or one side of a pair of scissors and just run it along the top there, and you'll give yourself lots of extra journaling space. I've glued more tracing paper here for journaling space and some fussy cut flowers. This is the other side of the file folder. Here is some cotton lace. This was a happy mistake, a happy accident. I was trying to dye this sort of an off-white creamy brown color, and for some bizarre reason it came out lavender, and I liked it. I've put a little brooch down here. It's a fleur-de-lis, and I just thought it was so pretty, and I don't know whether it even has anything to do with the book. I just loved it, so it went on. Hold on, we'll get into that. For here, I've added a vintage puzzle piece of some little birdies in a nest, and it's a tuck spot. So I've tucked in an old index card that's naturally yellowed. I didn't do that to it, and an old blue one as well. I created a writing board, so if you want to write in your book, you put it behind and you can write. It gives you a hard surface, and you can also just clip it into the book using this little clip so that you don't lose it. This illustration was in the original book, so it's 100 years old as well. And then I backed it with some vintage wrapping paper. This clip is new, and I've aged it to look old. So it's one of the few things that's brand new. This clip and that paper clip so far are the only new things in this book. Everything else has been resourced from a secondhand source. Edith Holden. This is a window envelope that I've put halfway through, so you can open it up, and there's some journaling paper inside. I did the stenciling on it. In you go. Thank you. This stenciling here, but I've left most of it so that you can still journal on it. This is from the book of, there's one more book. Hold on. This page came out of this book, which is from 1947, called The Complete Book of Garden Magic. I love this book. It's one of my favorites. There we go. I knew I'd forgotten something. Here's a little pocket. Here's an example of where I say that this is scrapbook paper that I found at one of my thrift stores. A little Edwardian lady with some tea-dyed cheesecloth behind her. Here's a little card with an envelope, and it's still blank, so that can be used for journaling, or it can actually be used if you want to send it to someone. Ledger paper that's fold out. Another sheet from the Gardener's Journal. These tuck spots were made from an old doily, or I guess table runner, and I've stitched around the edges. Here are a few of those tags, again, that I was telling you about that were made from advertisements that were in the back of the book, and I have glued on some cute little illustrations that I fussy cut out of other books. Here's the first page of chapter 1 of the original story, and you can journal on the back. More ledger paper with flip out. This is the other side of that 1947 Gardener's book. Here's the other side of that business envelope. I've stenciled again on both sides, and then inside I've put a card that I made from out of that book, The Language of Flowers, and it can be journaled on the back. And this can be put anywhere in the book you want. I happened to put it there because I thought it looked pretty peeking out of that window. Again, a pocket I made out of one of the interior pages of the book with a gentleman mowing his lawn in a top hat and waistcoat. And another luggage tag that I made. And it can be journaled on the back. Another page from Edith Holden with some lace down the side. There's a little bulb pin here with a tiny little bell on it. This is from a 1950s crochet book, and I couldn't remember which one it was because I literally have an entire box of crochet and knitting books from the 50s and 60s. This is quilting graph paper. This is a page from that really old Good Housekeeping book, and I thought, because it takes place in the southern states, I thought, biscuits, yum. So that's the page that I chose to put in. This is an envelope that has been made out of a page from a bird book. I made the envelope and then I sewed it into the signature. And then I added another piece of that really pretty stationery that's embossed. And then it can just be tucked back in under that little circle that is a rose. Tea-dyed paper. Sears Roebuck catalog. I forgot to say that when I flipped it over on the other side there. This is a reprint. It's not an original old one. I found a copy at my book sale that I go to up in Kirby, Ontario. So, oh, hold on. Are you stuck? There we go. So, and I tea-dyed it. This book, library pocket, I made out of the front page, the first front page of the original book. And I had to glue it onto card paper because the paper was quite fragile. So that's original. That's 100 years old, that. And then I created a library card to go in. Hold on. There we go. And I typed that with, I have a portable typewriter from, I believe, the 1960s. So I typed that on my typewriter. Another tuck spot from the scrapbook paper that I have. This embossed sticker is from a sticker album, a child sticker album that I found at a thrift store that is from the 1940s. I also included just a blank card, but I thought it was pretty and it matched the spirit of this book. So I tucked that in there. I also, this lace that's along here, I liked it because it has little hearts on it, and this page was called First Love. This bookmark I just include matter-of-factly in all of my journals that I make. That's my grandmother and my mother. And then it has my information. If you ever need to email me, you can. And again, a botanical painting from Mrs. Loudon. So that's it. That is INFELICE, and she will be available in my Etsy shop. And I hope you'll go take a look at her. And thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions down below. I can try my best to answer them. And I hope you all have a great day. Thanks very much. Bye.